All right. So kids, we're gonna go ahead and get started on our next part of this. So I had to start a new page because I did a whole presentation and it didn't record. So you should be finishing this right below where it says outliers. So we're gonna learn about what's called a 5-number summary, which is another way to look at data. Okay, so 5-number summary. Okay, so a 5-number summary, it's just another way to again, oh sorry, it's just another way to look at data. Okay, it groups and clumps your data, so it's just another way to look at multiple data points. Okay, so it's pretty simple the way it sounds, but I'm going to talk you and work you through it. So never worry about that. Okay, I'm always here to help you. So the first number that you're going to find in the data is the lowest point. I think you can do that. Okay, I think you can find the lowest number in a set. Q1, okay, it looks like that. This is called a subscript. That means it's below the number. It doesn't mean it has a power. It's not an exponent. It's just saying the first Q. And Q stands for quartile 1. Mathematicians always like to come up with weird names for things. Think quart means like quad, like quarter, it's 4. So we're just breaking our data. So now M stands for median. And we know how to do that now. If you don't remember, look at day 1 notes. Median is the middle. So order leads to greatest, chop off till you find the middle. Now the next one's Q3, which stands for quartile 3. Because you're really chunking this data to chunking it into quarters or into fourths. And quartile 3 is 3/4 of the way through the data. And lastly, H stands for the highest. And again, I think you can find the highest in any data. Okay. So let's take steps on how to do this. And as always, I will always practice with you. Okay. So step 1, I'm going to be honest, with most data analysis step, it's always order least to greatest. Okay. Then step 2 is going to be to find the highest and lowest, because those are our simplest to find. Step 3 is find the median. Step 4 is find quartile 1. And step 5 is find quartile 3. We're going to put little stars here and come back to something later. I just want to do a normal example with you once. And then as always, there's always a little caveat or a little added bonus when it comes to math. So let's do an example. I'm going to go ahead and write down the problems we had for the movie theater problem. So I have 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 12, and 13. Those were my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 data points. See how I write them in order least to greatest? So I'm already taking care of step 1. Now I have to go ahead and find my lowest. Again, it's pretty simple. My lowest data point is 9. I then write an H down here for my highest. Okay, my highest data point is 13. Now step 2 says to find the, or I'm sorry, step 3 says to find the median. So that's when I cross off. Remember, I always use a highlighter so I don't, so I can still access my numbers because I'm going to need them later. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Aha, 11. Now this is a part that gets a little confusing for kids. If your median is in the data set, it's a nice odd set of numbers. We had 7 numbers here, so we were going to have 1 in the middle. We didn't have to average to find it. If you have an odd set of numbers, you then do not use your median when doing the next part. So I'm going to cross it off to remind myself I do not use it for the next part. Okay, it's kind of confusing. For step 4, I need to find quartile 1. That is the median of your first half of your data set. So let's look at that again. I took my data set, I found the highest, lowest, the median. I'm not going to use the median again because it's already been claimed right here. I'm going to cover those numbers, and the quartile 1 is the median of these numbers. So now I'm going to use my pink highlighter to be sure. I'm going to go through and cross off 1, 1. Aha! My Q1 is 10. Now, I know some of you can already kind of step ahead and think of this. I have to do the same now, but for my Q3. So I cover up all the numbers, and now I just find the median or middle of these numbers. 1, 2, aha, it's 12. Voila, I was just able to find those numbers. This is really helpful in the future. Next week, our theme is data displays, so different ways to display your data in like a graph. There's many different types of data displays you're gonna learn next week. One of them, called box and whisker plots, requires you to have these 5 numbers, so we're kind of a step ahead. It's good to know this. So you can say, okay, if you had a large set of data, not usually with 7, but let's say we had hundreds of pieces of data, we could say, okay, I know my lowest is this, my highest is this, my median's here, and then my middle, my Q1 and my Q3 really tell me what my middle of my data are, okay? So you could even think of this as percentages. You could say, okay, my lowest, let's go up to the notes, my lowest is 0% of the way through my data. My quartile 1 is 25% of the way through my data. My median is 50% of the way through my data. My quartile 3 is 75% of the way through my data. And my highest is 100% of the way through my data. So you could really chunk it and tell people, okay, my middle 50, okay, this middle 50 is in this range, okay? And we're going to use that in a second too. It's called our interquartile range. I'm going to pause and make sure that this video worked, because then you're going to have to watch another, because I have more I need to do with this, but I just want to make sure that this video recording worked, since last time it did not.